The story is told about Choni Hamergel, who was walking along the road one day when he encounters a man planting a carob tree. He asks the man, "How long is it going to take for that tree to bear fruit?" And he's told 70 years. 70 years, Choni asks the man, "Do you really think that you are going to live that long?" Not the most polite of questions. But the man replies, "I was born into a world full of carob trees. Just as my ancestors planted for me, I am planting for my descendants." Whether we're talking about carob trees or synagogues, each of us are the beneficiary of the hard work and the difficult decisions of those who came before us. Each of us owes a debt of gratitude to the leaders and to the laymen who created the institutions that provide us with so much community and friendship and faith. That is certainly true for me. Were not for the people who built our city's Jewish schools and camps and youth groups and, yes, synagogues, I would not be the Jew that I am today. And the people who built those institutions, the people who built Beth David and Adath Israel and sustained them for all those years, didn't do so just for themselves. They worked hard for all of us. But it isn't the generation of our grandparents who are going to be judging the decision that we soon will be making. Rather, it's going to be the generation of our grandchildren who'll be looking back upon this moment and deciding whether or not we acted with the selfless courage that we need at this moment. They're going to be the ones looking back and deciding whether we did what was right and necessary and good for the well-being of the future of Toronto's conservative Jewish community. Now, this isn't the first time that either Beth David or Adath Israel have had the chance to act courageously for the well-being of our communities. Beth David is an amalgamation of Beth David, B'nai Israel, and Beth Am. And with each merger came change that was, I'm sure, at times painful, but change that was certainly in the long-term interests of their communities. And at Israel, we've also changed. We moved locations within the downtown core, and then we moved to our current home at 37 Southbourne. And we've also changed ritually. We were an Orthodox community before moving to where we are right now, choosing to affiliate conservative. And more recently, as a community, we decided to embrace egalitarianism. They weren't necessarily easy decisions, but they were the right decisions. As many of you know, my grandparents, Moish and Lee Cutler, were members of Beth David for decades. My grandparents were in shul every Shabbat morning. And when my bubby was no longer well enough to be there, I often sat in her seat next to my Zeta. And those Shabbat mornings are among my most fondest memories. My grandparents were involved in every aspect of shul life. And that was their way of allowing conservative Jewish life in this city to flourish. And I like to think that were they alive today, my Bubby and Zeta would be able to see what was necessary for the long-term strength of conservative Judaism here in Toronto. I like to think that my Bubby and Zeta would vote yes for an amalgamation of our two communities. In the weeks to come, I'll be sharing my vision for a new amalgamated community. Please stay tuned. In the meantime, I want to let you in on something. This story about Choni Hamergel and the carob tree is often told in Jewish circles. But the Talmud, as it turns out, is not horticulturally exact. A carob tree will bear fruit 70 years from its planting. But with the right care and nourishment and support, a new carob tree can begin to give fruit in as little as 4 years. Together, I'm sure that we can do the same.